definitely can't reset again, though. It's already going to take a while to do this. 3, 2, 1, go! So this is Gargoyle's quest for the Game Boy. A really fun platformer from the early Game Boy days. The main mechanic is a limited flight, which is used to pretty interesting effect in quite a wide variety of levels. It's a lot of fun. And over the course of the game, we're going to be getting jump upgrades, wing upgrades, and attack upgrades, which just really add to the diversity of your arsenal. And kind of similar to that right there, you notice that we didn't just hold the button and get as far as possible. In this game, there's a technique called fluttering, which is essentially dropping your hover for a very brief amount of time in order to really extend that stamina gauge for as long as possible. There's some pretty crazy tricks that you can do involving fluttering, but some of them aren't very marathon safe, so I won't really be doing them here. Taking a damage boost to clip up on top of that. Very nice. Gotta be really careful for that fish, because sometimes it can jump super high. That was actually one of the higher angles that it could jump at. There we go. Nice. And time for the first boss. Most of the bosses in this game are pretty straightforward. You just have to make sure that you can mash fast enough and kill it before it even moves. There we go. That was a really good time. So one of the big things about this game, and unfortunate things for the speedrun, is the random encounters. In theory, there's a 25% chance every 4 to 8 squares, depending on what map you're on, to get a random encounter. Obviously, for the speedrun, you're going to want as few as possible. The world record has about 7. Probably the average run is somewhere between 10 and 15. It's actually been investigated, the manipulation of the RNG in order to try to force random encounters or avoid random encounters for a particular, RNG seed or something like that. But unfortunately, it's not really humanly possible, since one of the factors for the seed of the RNG function is how many times the RNG function is called. Here's our friend Jark. He's very weak right now. He's going to ask us to pick up the gremlin stick for him, try to restore his power, and in exchange he's going to give us the Fingernail of the Spectre, which is a jump upgrade. This game's pretty good at gating you if you don't have an upgrade. For instance, here, well, not here, because this is an encounter. 2. And got you, and got you. Nice. There's quite a wide variety of random encounter configurations. Here we go. So you wouldn't usually be able to make this jump if you just came here with your default. The task can actually make it. And it's totally possible to get around there, but for the most part, we're going to want to just use the normal upgrade. It's totally possible to skip certain upgrades, specifically the first jump upgrade and the first wing upgrade, but they're not very marathon safe strats, so we're not going to be doing that here. Third encounter, we're going to want a damage boost through these two, because that's the fastest way to do it, and then drop behind him, drop behind them as well. Next up, forced encounter, but this one's pretty quick, so it's not too bad. This guy basically asking if we're after the gremlin stick. And of course we say yes, he says, nope, I can't let you go by. So we just, defeat him pretty quickly. And next up is the Monster Tower. So this is fairly universally agreed upon as the most difficult level in this game. Not only are the jumps particularly close, especially right against some spikes, but you have to get to the end with full health. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of time on the boss of this level. This fly right here is particularly annoying. Here what we're going to do is we're actually going to sit on this platform particularly low, which, due to a glitch, forces that platform to freeze in position, and that allows us to clip along the corner and save about 10 seconds there. It might be close to 5, but it's a decent chunk of time. Right, and more of these platforms. You can see these particularly tight jumps, especially in the speed run where you're not really going back and forth on all these platforms. You're just jumping right up there. You can see how it'd be really easy to just take 1 damage. The only way you can heal on this level is by taking a death past the checkpoint. There we go, nice mash there. Using our life, taking the intentional damage. Gotta dodge that shot, and we're good. Nice, that was a very good level. So here, we're going to get a couple things. We got the gremlin stick, we got a life, and we got the brick break. Unfortunately, that life slows us down, because what we're going to do here is we're going to try to get a game over as fast as possible. Ideally, what would happen is we'd get a couple random encounters before we make it back to town. But after we talk to Jarg and deliver the gremlin stick, we're actually going to take a game over and teleport back to the Monster Tower in order to skip a 3rd visit to this stage. Unfortunately, we didn't get any random encounters on the way back, which is unfortunate. But it doesn't take too long to game over on just the bridge spike, since it does 2 damage. Here we're using the gremlin stick on Jarg. He's essentially thanking us, warning us that we need to go save the king, and he's warning us with the candle of the poltergeist. A lot of the MacGuffins in this game are candles. I don't really know why. This encounter would actually be super beneficial if we were already at 0 lives, since it would allow us to take the game over before we even make it to the bridge. But due to marathon safety, I didn't take a early death against a random encounter, and we still have a couple lives to go through. So we won't save the most time, but it's still pretty good. Even if you have to waste all 3 lives on the bridge, you still save time. And the reason why I'd want to die on random encounters is it's actually a time save. Real quick though, we're getting an armor upgrade from this person. Essentially, they tell us not to go any further, but we insist, and they say we're very brave, and they decide to give us a bit of an armor boost. And now we finally get a chance to switch to our new weapon, the Brick Breaker. So the Brick Breaker is pretty cool. There's a specific type of block that you can actually break, which is really easy to notice because there's only one style of block. There's one level that has a different style of block. I'm not sure why they decided to change it in that one circumstance, but it's really easy to tell when you can break a block and when you can't break a block. They didn't really hide anything besides a invisible breakable block or breakable wall or something like that. It's always pretty obvious. So here, we're actually going to take a death on this encounter. Save a little bit of time. Now, the reason... Ooh. Watch, this is going to be slower. What do we got? What do we got? Okay, we have potatoes. That's not too bad. And real quick, we're going to grab a power-up that's hidden back here, the Wings of the Falcon. It's pretty well hidden, but it's really easy to find it because there's a lot of NPCs in this area that give you sort of a plot dump, or at the very least advice. And one of them tells you, hey, there's an upgrade behind the tree, or on the tree behind the palace. Oh, we are getting a lot of encounters this split. This is pretty bad. And unfortunately, we only have so many lives to use on random encounters. The reason why you want to take a death on a random encounter, if you can afford the life, of course, is it saves about 10-15 seconds. And most of that is because the victory fanfare and the reward screen takes so long to go through. If you die, just nothing plays, it immediately ends. And the chat that you get afterwards is super short. Got him. It's in the world record, I actually skip this particular wing upgrade, and we skip this encounter. It's referred to as bridge skip. But bridge skip's not the most marathon safe trick, so I probably won't go. But so I don't really go for it in a usual marathon setting. Though, depending on the marathon and the hype or something like that, I would probably take a safety save and do at least 1 or 2 attempts at bridge skip, and then go for the wings as a backup. Okay, don't want to forget to split here. I forgot to on the other day when I was doing marathon splits. Nice. Okay, there we go. A little bit of a glitch there. You could kind of see Firebrand for a couple frames here. This is unfortunately one of the laggier levels, and that fly that's following us wasn't exactly helping. Here we go, just up here. Now, next up, there's actually this really big gargoyle, and it's kind of hard to tell, but the wind's actually blowing to the left. So it takes quite a bit of wing strength. Uh-oh, that's bad. Okay. So unfortunately, I didn't wait long enough for him to come down at an angle. It's a little faster in order to jump around him, and it causes significantly less lag, actually, because there's a lot less sprites on screen since you're not trying to mash and kill him. Got bonked my head, unfortunately, so we didn't make that little corner clip. And this is basically a giant fly, but again, we just set up, mash, go to town, and we're good. Nice, that was a pretty good split. Here we're going to use the gremlin stick on the king, who is going to request our aid once again and continue fighting the evil army of the King Brigger. But in order to do that, we're going to need more strength. And in order to do that, we're going to need to meet up with a friend of Majora. Now here, this is actually very interesting. So we're actually going to take a death here. Even though it would deal, even though this is a game over, this is a particular checkpoint spot. And that means we have 2 lives left. So we basically were able to remove that victory fanfare for free, and we got another life so that we could use on another random encounter. Unfortunately, we used both of those lives pretty quickly. So this is a very unlucky split so far. There's not that much overworld, so any encounters you do get is usually pretty bad. Another interesting thing is that desert's actually pushing you around the whole time. It's kind of hard to tell in the speedrun because we have a very specific route to get through. But it can be kind of frustrating in casual playthrough. This is the Desert Pit. It's actually my favorite level in this game. The whole gimmick, especially for that intro, and we've got a... Ooh, that's bad. But fortunately there's a life that we can grab. This is another one of those dungeons where we need to be at full health for the boss. The whole first half is essentially maintaining your stamina just enough so that you can fall as fast as possible. Because the fastest move in this game is actually just straight falling down. The fastest acceleration, fastest pretty much everything. Unfortunately, we don't really get that many chances to use it. But this entire stage is essentially focusing on that mechanic, at least on the speedrun. Very high risk, high reward. Because every time you hover, you gotta accelerate again. And it's totally possible to only have to stop a couple times. This is the giant snail. It's again a major mash fight. Oh, this particular mashing is actually a really tight window. It's about 8 frames. Which is exactly 1 iframe cycle. And if you don't make that, then yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. And here we go, we beat the stage. We got the Dark Candle, and we also got the Claw. The Claw is another attack upgrade, and the Dark Candle is what we went in there for the plot. So switch to the Claw. It has a special ability that will become more obvious later. If you shoot a wall spike with it, it'll actually make a protective platform that you can grab and jump off of. It also does more damage than the Brick Break, and we're able to have 2 shots on screen at the same time still. Hey mate, how's it going? It's not a submission recording, it's really just commentary practice. Getting an armor upgrade here. Pretty quick, simple fight. This Duke we need to talk to for him to open up a gate, and he's going to show us the way to Majora, who we need to give the Dark Candle to. He's also the one that we talk to in order to figure out, oh, okay, we have to go to the desert, get the Dark Candle, and then he'll tell us where Majora is. So he's a real gatekeeper plot-wise, but in the speedrun, we really only need to talk to him once. How'd you like GQ2 made? Is a bad game. Well, that's okay. In that case, you probably won't like it on the NES either, because the Game Boy version is definitely the better version of the two, at least personally. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. Nice, just barely making it. Finally using the Claw's ability, and we're out. This is our good friend Majora that I've been talking about. What we need to do is use the Dark Candle in the middle of the room. And we're going to get a nice big plot dump where we basically find out that we're the protagonist of this game. And we are, in fact, the people who can save the world. In this case, we find out that we're the Red Blaze, who is a very special red gargoyle that has the power to defeat King Breaker. So what did you not like about the game made? The thing where you go over the spikes near the start. Do you mean the training pot, or do you mean something else? Ah, yes, the damage boost in the second stage. Yeah, that's pretty hard. The important thing to remember about that damage boost is on the top of the spikes, the farthest right spike on the second half on the right side doesn't deal damage to you. So there's a safe space that you can land on. But yeah, it's a pretty tough trick. It's actually a little harder on the Game Boy version. Like, the window that you have to work with is way tighter. Nice. Hey, pretty good. Or you take too much damage before that because you're bad. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a really key trick, too. Because it not only despawns enemies, but it's also way faster than going under. Like, way faster. Wow, we only saved 5 seconds there. So here what we're going to do is we're going to set up for a trick to get a super quick kill on the final boss. And what we want to do, and we totally nailed it, we want to take 1 damage from the wall spike instead of 2 damage from the drill. That's going to allow us to be at 3 health for the boss and set us up for the super quick kill. There's an alternate quick kill that you can do without taking any damage, but it's about 5 seconds slower. Nice, damage boost there. Due to missing information, either intentional or just cut off by the camera. Ah, fair. Yeah, there's a lot less on screen in the Game Boy version than the SNES version, that's for sure. Because the layouts are very similar. You got him. The layouts are very similar, but you just have small. It'd be okay with trial and error if they were different. Yeah, in the original Gargoyle's quest, the NPCs at least told you which one it was. I don't think any NPCs tell you which one's the correct path in Gargoyle's Quest 2. But yeah, the only difference between the caves, if you don't know where they are, in GQ2, is whether or not you start on the left side or the right side. And technically you don't even know if starting on the right side's bad or not. You can kind of assume that it's bad, just from the fact that you've never started on the right and gone left before. But yeah, I don't think there's any key information, it's just trial and error. Yeah, only one of them was correct. That's definitely true. Alright, switching over to the claw again. Going for some pretty damage boost heavy strats here. The difference between damage boosting properly and not damage boosting properly on this stage is a difference of about 40 seconds. It's pretty big. Wait, was starting on the right in GQ2? No, you never started in the right on GQ2. There's certain parts of the maze where you started on the right. But there are no levels where you started on the right in GQ2. Like, no levels that you were supposed to go through. Got it. Nice. Really smooth level so far. And up. Nice. Alright, perfect stage. Don't want to jump too early because it'll just follow after you. And now it's time for the final boss, where we just mash B. If you don't mash B, and you accidentally accept his proposal, he ends up stripping you of all your power, and there's literally nothing you can do but die. Get wrecked! So usually what you would do there is you would switch to the ultimate attack, but you can actually save about 5 seconds by not menuing and just going to town with a Brick Breaker. Other than the missing information, you don't really have a problem with gameplay. Movement is fun to optimize. You're going to try to learn the speedrun. Well, that's super cool! And best of luck to you to learning the speedrun. Is this gonna be a sub 28? I think we just missed. No, I think we're good on sub 28. Yeah, there we go. Just barely. And now let's switch over to GQ2.